Everyone, welcome to Locked On Lakers for Wednesday. Brian Kamenetsky, Andy Kamenetsky. The Lakers hope to get healthy tonight in Minnesota. And meanwhile, is Austin Reaves playing too well for the Lakers? We'll explain next.
You are Locked On Lakers, your daily Los Angeles Lakers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks to everybody for making Locked On Lakers your very first listen of every day. Somebody asked me the other day, they said, how do you know you're our first listen? I said, because I know. I can tell. If you're lying to us, we know. Thank you for making us your first listen of every day. Monday through Friday, no matter how where you get your podcasts, this one's never going to be behind a paywall for you. Locked On Lakers on YouTube is where you can go hang out with almost 37,000 subscribers to the channel, Andy, all of whom are hoping the Lakers can take the floor tonight in Minnesota with something more than the skeleton crew that was available to them against the Blazers on Monday night. So it is imperative for the Lakers to get healthy, and to that end, they're looking at maybe some improvement. Marcus Smart and Jaxson Hayes are questionable for the game,
which combined with JJ expressing optimism, hope that they could play on Wednesday, if nothing else, feels like it is possibly trending in the right direction. Overall, I think if you had to choose between one or the other to get back, you would choose Marcus, just because right now, as we discussed at great length for Tuesday's show, they are so low on ball handlers. They need somebody else who can be out there to help try to create some type of structured, cohesive offense. But at the same time, given Minnesota's size with Rudy Gobert and Naz Reid and Julius Randle, there is a pretty big role for Jaxson Hayes looming as well if he's available. And they need a rotation beyond five guys that JJ, I think, definitively trusts. The five guys, by the way, were the five starters against.
Right. Only one of whom, if we're being honest, can dribble at an NBA level for guard skills. As JJ said on Monday, it is difficult to win without ball handlers, and they had one guy that could do it, who was coming off a 50-point game and putting out tremendous energy in Sacramento, having to repeat it against the Blazers. Marcus Smart gives them a second NBA caliber rotation level guard. And that is something there without Gabe Vincent available, without Luka, without LeBron, and Bronny James still very much in a learning capacity and not, shouldn't be expected to run point in a game where the Lakers are, trying to be competitive.
You could have stopped your sentence with "in a game where the Lakers," just period.
Right. I mean, he can do garbage time. He can do whatever. He can go play. But
that's not an actual game.
Right. To put Bronny up against NBA level competition, NBA, not G League stuff, but NBA competition, and expecting him to do that point guard role especially is just not fair. So that's not really a choice. They have Nick Smith. They have Chris Mannion. It's slim pickings, to say the least. So getting those two guys back would be a very significant thing. Obviously playing alongside Austin Reaves, who, by the way, interesting question that was asked by Sam Amick at The Athletic about the future of Austin Reaves, whether or not this heater he's on is ultimately going to cost the Lakers, quite literally in some ways, which we'll get to here in a second. But the Minnesota's going to be playing this game without Anthony Edwards. And there is no question that you take Ant away from Minnesota, it's like any game where the Lakers are playing without Luka. It's certainly a game without Luka and LeBron. If you're the other team, it doesn't really matter who else is left or who else is going to take the floor. You're like, you know what? That changes the equation enough that we can win. So the Lakers are playing without Luka. They're playing without LeBron. But you look at Minnesota without Anthony Edwards, so it's still a very good team, but they are much more beatable, especially if those two guys can get on the floor.
Yeah, the starting lineup for the Lakers, if they have Marcus Smart, who I think would re-enter the starting lineup. He's been there for one game and then got hurt. And then Jaxson Hayes. If you're talking about a starting lineup, I'm guessing of Reaves, Marcus Smart, Rui, DeAndre Ayton, and Jared Vanderbilt, if I had to guess. I think that is basically along the lines of a starting lineup of Julius Randle, Jaden McDaniels, Rudy Gobert, Mike Conley Jr., who is really beginning to look his age pretty drastically, and Dante DiVincenzo, who has not been off to a great start to this season. I think those lineups are basically comparable where the Lakers are.
They're at the very least, Andy, I would say they're comparable enough that you don't go, that's a huge mismatch.
Right. I don't think it's a massive mismatch in either direction, even if you think, and I think it'd be reasonable, that Minnesota's is better in the aggregate. Now, where the Lakers are really going to have trouble, even if Smart and Hayes are both hopefully available, is production off the bench. You're looking at a bench, I'm projecting at least, of LaRavia, Hayes in this scenario, and Dalton will get minutes. How he plays in those minutes, and hopefully the way he closed the game against Portland, he looked better as the game went along after a very rough start. Really signals some comfort. He talked about it afterwards that he thinks maybe there can be some momentum. But those are the three guys are going to be out there. Then you look at Minnesota, it's Naz Reid, Bones Highland, Terrence Shannon Jr., Rob Dillingham, maybe Jalen Clark. He's questionable for this game. That is definitely advantage Minnesota. And that is potential production. Like Naz Reid alone, forget the other guys. They're going to have to try to account for
just the volume. You named like 4 guys, 5 guys. That's more than the Lakers can go get.
Yeah, I mean, whether by defending Naz Reid really well or attempting to somehow match him shot for shot, point for point, like Naz by himself is going to be a challenge for the Lakers bench with the amount of guys that they're missing. But if nothing else, hopefully the Lakers starters, if at this version of full strength, they can compete that way. They can maybe at least hold serve or create some advantages against Minnesota starting lineup without Ant. That's a very big deal. It would be, and they're going to have to score to make this happen. Again, it would be super useful to have Marcus.
It really would. I look at this, it matters if the Lakers win or lose. I am not trying to sit here and be like, oh, you take the, it's a learning experience. You ignore the final score. No, not in the Western Conference. You can't do that. Every game matters. It matters whether or not the Lakers win or lose. They're going to be without Luka, presumably at least through the game on Sunday, possibly into early next week. We'll have a little bit of health supposition there, but there's at the very least, there's no reason to think as of yet that Luka's injury, which was he'll be reevaluated in a week, is going to stretch much beyond a week, 10 days, whatever it might be. So long term, Luka should be back. Short term, you got to win some of these games, and they've got a lot of games in between now and then. It's just a bad sort of quirk of the schedule. You look at what they did, but there's still some things that I think you can draw from that you say sort of independent of the score. Playing without Luka, playing without LeBron, missing some of these other guys opens up opportunities that can be valuable for them as the season goes along. We mentioned Dalton. We can talk a little bit more about him. Jared Vanderbilt, I think, has had an opportunity to get more minutes and in a more involved role. I think that's something that we can talk about in the next segment. And the third guy is DeAndre Ayton, because over the last couple of games, the sort of advertised strength of Ayton, which was very strong pick and roll player, I think we're starting to see what that looks like. And it's been true, but it's been true in ways that I think are different than what Lakers fans might have been picturing. And so there's an opportunity to keep that momentum going. We'll get to it next.
Locked on Lakers is brought to you by Quo. One of the tools that makes a huge difference for business owners is Quo, formerly Open Phone, the same business phone system you've heard us talk about before, just with a new name, Quo. And here's why it matters. Every missed call, that's money left on the table. When every customer conversation counts, you need a phone system that keeps you connected. Quo is the #1 business phone system, streamlining customer communications. It works through an app on your phone or computer, so there is no carrying two phones or relying on some landline. And Quo lets your team share one number and collaborate on calls and texts. This is really cool, like a shared inbox. So there's no customer ever left hanging. Their built-in AI agent is a game changer. It even answers calls after hours. It captures leads. It keeps businesses moving even when you're off the clock. So see over why 90,000 businesses trust Quo, formerly OpenPhone. Get started free and get 20% off your first 6 months at quo.com/LockedOnNBA. That's QUO.com/LockedOnNBA. And if you've got existing numbers with another service, Quo will port them over at no extra charge. Quo, no missed calls, no missed customers.
Locked On Lakers also brought to you by Rippling. If you're a business owner, here's the truth. SaaS, that's software as a service, promised to make work easier, but now the average company is buried by hundreds of apps that can slow down your teams because they don't work together. Your apps, not your teams. That's not SaaS, Andy. That's SAD, software as a disservice. And that's why you need Rippling. Rippling is the unified platform for global HR, payroll, IT, and finance. It's all in one place. They've helped millions of businesses replace a mess of disconnected tools with one system designed to give leaders clarity, speed, and control. So whether you want to run your entire HR, IT, or finance operations as one, or just fill in the gaps of your software stack, Rippling can do it all. Seriously simple to use, gives your companies one source of truth for their data, people, and everything else that they touch. Right now, you can get 6 months free when you go to rippling.com/LockedOnNBA. That's you can learn more at rippling.com/LockedOnNBA, rippling.com/LockedOnNBA for 6 months free. So I think, Andy, two guys I really want to focus here on are Ayton and Vando. Ayton, because we're starting to see kind of how he fits a little bit, how his style of play fits, what it looks like, where he's most comfortable. In Vanderbilt, because this time with all these guys missing, is just he's playing more than he otherwise probably would have. I think a lot of people, when they picture pick and rolls, especially with Luka, it's, high screen, hard roll to the basket, lob comes up, throw it down, all that kind of stuff. That's not really Ayton's strength as a pick and roll player. He can get to the basket but he's not a high flyer above the rim kind of guy. Where he has excelled, and we're starting to see it, is that little short roll pick and then go into the pocket there, wait for the pass and hit that, 8-footer, 10-footer, 12-footer, little push shot, whatever it might be, depending on the defense. And over the last couple of games especially, it has become very effective, and he has started to look very comfortable.
Yeah, you and I were texting during the game against Portland, and I said, watching Deandre Ayton hit a flurry of mid-range jumpers and push shots and little hooks, a lot of them kind of between the circles. It really reminded me of why I kept harping on for a few years about why Anthony Davis really has to be offensively a center in the NBA, because DeAndre Ayton may not stretch the floor like in the way we think about it in modern NBA terms from behind the NBA arc. Like, he's not a stretch five by any stretch of the imagination. He is really good from that true mid-range area. And he forces teams to either guard him there, which will by definition open up some space, or because defenses have been so trained now to ignore that area because it's considered a quote unquote bad shot. Ayton actually has utility as a pick and roll partner in ways that I think Anthony Davis really doesn't as consistently. Certainly Jaxson Hayes doesn't have at all. It kind of shifts the way DeAndre Ayton can be used on this team. And I think everybody is starting to find the ways that he's most comfortable and most productive. And to your point, it may not be exactly what everybody was imagining, but that doesn't mean it won't be effective.
Right. I mean, I don't No, if I totally agree, I'd have to think about your point about AD and the relative comparison. But
I mean, look at the numbers, man. They're there.
It's not even just the numbers, but like in terms of AD as a mid-range guy, in terms of moving the ball, there's a lot of stuff you can do with him. But the larger point about
well, certainly,
about
if nothing
AD,
else, specifically as a pick and pop guy.
Sure,
AD's not as good as Deandre Ayton. He just
sure,
isn't.
Okay, and then but I mean, my concern, my real interest at this point is just like what it looks like with Ayton, and obviously he's doing a lot of this with Reaves and not Luka, because Luka's missed a couple games, but like. It's not like Luka can't figure this out. Like Luka's watching this and seeing it, he can replicate the same stuff. And so, they will open up more opportunities when Luka's back in the game. But whatever it is that Reaves and Ayton are able to kind of forge right now is exactly what Luka is going to be able to do with them as well. Like that part of it will carry over. And to get that feeling of comfort of understanding how Ayton is most effective as an offensive player. And it's a little for us, like you'd love to see him be more physical around the basket offensively, draw more fouls, play through contact. And like, okay, that's fine. But if he did all of those things really consistently, he wouldn't have been available, because then people wouldn't have had those complaints about him. And like,
it's interesting. He offers physicality around the rim, just not as a scorer.
Not as a scorer, right? He mixes it up as a rebounder, aggressively goes after that. But our friend Max Kellerman, who we used to work with at 710 ESPN, has made this point about a variety of players. It's like you look at guys, and especially like the great players, like, wouldn't it be great if they did X, Y, and Z? Like they do all this stuff, but if they only did this, they'd be the greatest of all time. Like it would be great if they were even greater. And like it would be good if Ayton was even gooder at what he does. But the Lakers finding that comfort spot and making it so they are able to tap into the version of Ayton that has the highest upside for this team is critically important for them to raise the ceiling on this season. I mean, it's got a natural limit until everybody gets back. But what they're learning now, and Ayton's ability to really get out there and be counted on and aggressive in a way that, like, I think in that first game, he looked tentative, in part because it's like, I'm playing with Luka, I'm playing with AR, there's Rui over there. Like, I don't want to get in the way. Like, I want to just do my job. I'm a good soldier. I'm doing my job. I'm not going to call my own number, all that stuff. And in the second half of the Minnesota game, particularly, you could see something cranked his gears up from third gear to fifth gear, and he has been much more aggressive and comfortable and moving with purpose since then. And I see no reason why that will stop when everybody's back. But I also think having 2 or 3 more games where he really gets to be a focal and get that muscle memory is very beneficial.
Speaking of Luka, when we were talking about him eventually operating some of this action with Ayton, there's a piece over at The Athletic written by Sam Amick, Joe Varden, and Mike Vorkunov, and it's largely about the NBA and this gambling scandal and some of the questions that are specifically created by injury reports and availability, players being questionable, yada, yada, yada. But there's a little section here about Luka that I thought was worth noting, just because it hopefully provides some optimism about his availability pretty soon. Talking about, again, injury reports and gambling and whatnot. From the team's perspective, there's certainly a gray area here that is increasingly difficult to navigate. In Dončić's case, for example, even the smallest chance that he might have been able to push through and play in Sunday night's game might have changed a team to delay its reporting. From a team source, the Lakers and Dončić did, in fact, discuss the prospect of him taking the 1-hour flight on Sunday from Los Angeles to Sacramento to play before they ultimately decided against it. And again, the larger context for this piece was about the NBA and gambling. But to me, what jumped out is, okay, if there was even a discussion about Luka potentially playing on Sunday against Sacramento, it continues to provide me with some optimism that this will not be a long absence. We'll see, but that was my take.
The other guy that I think is critical, I mentioned at the top of the segment, is Jared Vanderbilt. And I know you have long hoped that the Lakers would be able to be in a position where he could play bigger minutes just because his skill set is different than, most everything else on the roster.
Yeah, and Jacob Rude, friend of the show over at Silver Screen and Roll, in his post-game report card from the Portland game, he framed something in a way that I had not thought of before, but I think it's really smart and, again, provides some optimism moving forward with Vando. Talking about his performance quote, if I was nitpicking, I would say there's a bit of a deceiving box score. Vando had some real head scratchers that led to turnovers or empty possessions for the Lakers. But as was the case with everyone, he was being asked to do maybe a little more than he was comfortable with. So I won't nitpick. Instead, this is the important part, I'll note that Vando playing 27 minutes against the Kings and 28 minutes against the Blazers in a back-to-back is very encouraging to start the season. I'll admit, I had not even thought about that before. The idea that Vando was playing in the mid-20s, mid to high 20s in back-to-back games just because there was so much other stuff to be thinking about with these injuries and what does it mean. But it was a smart observation by Jacob. And yes, that is really important because it hopefully signals, no, seriously, Vando actually has recovered from all this bleep and injuries and really is ready to look much more like the guy from the first half season with the Lakers, where he was very productive and important.
Yeah, and I feel like you can take, 25 to 30 minutes a night of Vando is probably too much. But when everybody's healthy, if he's still in this same physical place, you can get, 15 to 20 of him going truly full out and in full disruptive mode and get the most out of him while also protecting against some of his weaknesses. So I agree with you. It's really good to see. Is Austin Reaves playing too well for the Lakers? We'll explain next.
Locked On Lakers is brought to you by Peloton, shaping the future of fitness with the brand new Peloton Cross Training Tread Plus, powered by Peloton IQ, their most advanced equipment yet, designed to give you real-time guidance, endless ways to move, whether you're running, lifting, or cross-training with your favorite instructors. This is training reimagined. Peloton is built for breakthroughs with tools that help you plan, stay motivated, and reach peak performance. The Peloton IQ system offers real-time strength coaching. It actually tracks your reps, suggests the right weights, corrects your forms, makes every rep safer and smarter. With the personalized class recommendations, keeping you engaged, you get workouts tailored to your vibe and energy level each week. So let yourself run, lift, flex, and push forward. Explore the new Peloton Cross Training Tread Plus today on onepeloton.com.
All right, so our friend Sam Amick at The Athletic, writing about Austin Reaves, poses the question of whether or not Reaves, who is on a heater to start the year, 36 points a game, 8.5 assists, 7 rebounds. We all know the 51.11 rebound, 9 assist game he put up against the Kings. Let's remember, he's going into a contract year, and there were Lakers fans who were balking at the idea of the Lakers paying him $30 million a year. Well, if he keeps anything close to this up, it's going to be a lot more than that. And that's, in a lot of ways, the question that Sam is asking is whether or not Reaves is playing at a level that actually could make his off-season cost problematic.
Yeah, just to add a little more context to those numbers, his splits right now are 57% from the field, 43% from behind the arc, 88% at the line. The vaunted 50-40-90 splits are right there, almost 2 steals.
I'm new. Is that good?
That is quite good. And, Austin is being put right now in a position to really not just showcase what he can be as a player, but also showcase his truest strengths, which is with the ball in his hands. And with the ball in his hands is often where players can look most tempting and appealing to other teams around the league. From Sam's piece, quote, while they'll be able to outbid the competition next July, when Reaves' max offer from the Lakers would be 5 years and a combined $240 million, they need to see how he fits alongside Dončić for a full season first. The money certainly shouldn't be a problem with new owner Mark Walter. He of the LA Dodgers free spending lure, having bought a majority stake of the team at a $10 billion valuation in June. Side note, we'll get to this at some point. There are reports from Ramona Shelburne that the sale of the team to Mark Walter may be quicker than was originally reported, moved up. So that obviously is a big deal. Moving back to Sam's piece, the Reaves dynamic has potential shades of what transpired with Dončić in Dallas when Jalen Brunson opted to leave the Mavericks for the New York Knicks and the chance to have his own team in 2022. Add in the fact that James could retire at any given moment. The prospect of Dončić being left without an elite core around him is real. Then again, Reaves' desire to truly contend, as well as his affinity for the Lakers experience, is well known around the team. If they find a way to be elite, then perhaps that becomes an incentive to stay. What's more, it should count for something that Lakers owner Jeannie Buss and president of basketball operations Rob Pelinka have consistently resisted pressure to trade Reaves for a star player because of their belief in him. These are good problems to have for Reaves and early signs of a complicated offseason for the Lakers. For the time being, the way Austin is playing, it is good for the Lakers, full stop, no caveats, because they need him to play this well. They're trying to survive this period without Luka, without LeBron, without Gabe Vincent, hopefully not much longer without Marcus Smart and Jaxson Hayes, but there is no but.
Let's not get too cute here.
No. Austin playing this well is awesome. What I do think, though, is interesting about this, because we've talked before about the idea of, Austin 30 to 35 a year, something like that. That is really a no-brainer in today's NBA. You sign into that contract. 35 to 40 starts getting to become more of a conversation, but in all likelihood, the Lakers still sign him and you figure out the rest later. The rest being, how do you build a team around him and Luka in apron world with their very similar strengths and weaknesses, and the cost of some of the players that would be required to offset those weaknesses. If, however, Austin plays at a level this year where 40 plus million annually becomes a live possibility, and there are teams around the league with the cap space to make those sorts of offers to Austin, then it becomes complicated for the Lakers, not even because you're debating whether or not you think Austin is worth that money in a vacuum. It's more really, can you properly build around him and Luka making a combined $100+ million?
Well, I would say this. If the answer to that question is no, then the answer is that question is no with any star player you can get. And you're putting yourself in a position where you're saying we're going to build with Luka as our lone star and, try to get a bunch of B plus players, all of whom will cost you way more than you think they're going to cost anyway. So what I think is interesting about this is that the equation has always been AR is your third guy. And when LeBron leaves, they're going to go get a different guy. And now you're paying 40 or 40, if you're paying 40, you can give 40 million to your third guy, all that kind of stuff, because there's always going to be that other guy that they're bringing in. It's Giannis. They're going to get Jokic. They're going to do whatever it might be, whatever fantasy that people throw around. The scenario here, and I think the most disappointing thing, or one of the most disappointing things beyond, I love watching Luka play, the Lakers need to win these games, all that kind of stuff. We're missing an opportunity to see a lot of Reaves and Luka together without LeBron and get a real feel for what that looks like.
The dress rehearsal potentially for next year.
Right. Because if Reaves plays like this and they're successful as a pairing, the equation changes. You can give Austin Reaves $45 million or $40 million or whatever it is. Because if he sustains it throughout the season, definitionally it means he looked good with Luka. It worked over the course of the year. It's a new blueprint. You're no longer looking for that other superstar and then deciding if Reaves, where are we going to pay him or not? Now it's Luka and Reaves, and then you figure out the other things that we need to put around these guys: defensive 3-and-D wings, stoppers, whatever it might be. Now,
athleticism.
I am not saying that Austin Reaves has reached that point. They've played 4 games.
Right.
There's a lot of season left here to see all that. But I'm just saying the scenario that Sam is talking about here, I think, if it comes to fruition where he plays at that level, we're talking about basically Austin Reaves, whether he makes it an all-star team or not, you look at what he's doing on the floor and go, that guy is easily could be an all-star. If that happens, it changes the formula. And so I think it's important to me at least it's a context changer. Then I don't think it's a problem for the Lakers at all. In fact, I actually think it simplifies things for the Lakers because now they don't have to go get that other star to pair with Luka. You can go much faster and try to just, your core now and build the team that way. I actually think it is extraordinarily convenient for the Lakers for a Reaves-Luka pairing to show itself as championship caliber. Again, long way from that, but I think it's helpful, not hurtful.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you, particularly because while I don't think Austin is going to maintain 36, 7, 8.5, 2 steals, 57, 43, almost 90 splits.
No.
Well, that would basically mean Austin Reaves is winning MVP. And respectfully to Austin, I don't think he's going to win MVP this year. Although if he does, he's definitely making an all-star team.
Right. It's true. Another too, like the numbers he's got through 4 games, like he still might not automatically win just given like what Wemby is doing.
Right.
Like some of the numbers that have been put up in the first week and a half have been insane.
But he will be firmly like in the MVP conversation.
Sure.
I would love to be wrong. I don't think frankly most players are able to maintain, maybe any players are able to maintain this level of production. What is interesting though about it, you are correct that it shows that if say he maintains very good numbers, if not these numbers, but very good numbers, when
normal regular all-star numbers.
Right. When Luka comes back, which by the way, I think is a live possibility.
For sure.
What I think is interesting about that is it demonstrates that the two of them can produce alongside each other at a high level.
Yeah.
But it still leaves open the question of the math and the cap mechanics of putting the right pieces around them, again, to offset what they don't bring and the math equation and the money equation. But again, I everydayers know I have had my questions about whether or not that can be done, but I don't have any real questions about whether or not the two of them actually can continue to produce at a high level when they're both on the floor, because offensively there are no reasons that they can't complement each other well.
But I mean, the only alternative in that is if you can go find a star that has that 3-and-D ability that is a better than and I realize that's the idea and that's the model. Good luck with finding one of those guys on the market who's good enough.
The answer may be you commit to it because there is no better alternative and you see how this works. And if a plan B presents itself, figure it out from there. Right. Again, offensively, you can do way worse. But if you don't have to fill in with a third star, because this pairing works, and you'll see it win games. I wish we could see more games of it because I want LeBron to come back. But if it works and they win games as a pairing, it just it opens up a lot of options. So we'll see what happens tonight against the Timberwolves. Lakers, especially if Smart and Hayes can get back on the floor, certainly have a puncher's chance, or maybe better than that, against an antless Minnesota team. We'll be back after the game. Locked On Lakers on YouTube, so we can go hang out with over 36,000 subscribers of the channel. See everyone later.